Hey beautiful people, thanks again for joining me under the palm. If you're new here, my name is Deborah and I make videos on Bible, health, and home with a focus on eschatology. If that sounds good to you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and let's get into the video. So today we're going to be talking about chapter 12 in the book of Revelation, and that chapter is a really significant chapter, so I wanted to do a whole video on it to kind of explain the symbolism behind that chapter and how it relates to biblical end times. It really does cover the whole entire tribulation, Jacob's trouble, in kind of a short form storytelling symbolic way. So this chapter is really key for you to understand. So I wanted to explain it the best of my ability that I've known how to so far with the Bible study that I've been doing in the last few years. And I want to share that with you guys. So I think you're going to really enjoy this video and it's going to be really informative. And yeah, let's just get into it. All right, so I've made some notes and I'm just going to go through them and discuss this chapter with you. I'm not going to read the entire chapter, but I'm going to start off by reading the beginning part and then kind of touching on the latter verses. So let's just read verse 1 to verse 6 for now. So Revelation chapter 12, verse 1 says, "Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven, behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. She bore a male child who was to rule the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God that they should feed her there 1,260 days." So there are 3 main characters in this chapter, and it's the woman, the child, and the dragon. So we want to figure out who are these people. This is very symbolic. From what I've researched, the Jews really used a lot of pictures and symbolism in their teaching and their culture, whereas other cultures like Rome and Greece, they used more science. So this is very symbolic because it's a story in the sky, but it's obviously not literal. So who is the woman of Revelation 12? There is debate on this, and I'm going to tell you who I believe she is, but then I'll talk about who else other people think she is. So basically, I believe that the woman represents Israel. Now, others believe that she represents Mary, and I'll get into that after, but for now, I'll just talk about why I believe she represents Israel. So in verse 6, it says she flees into the wilderness for 3.5 years. It says the dragon pursues her after she has her child. Where else do we see this? We see it in Matthew 24, verse 16. It says, "Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains." So in Matthew 24, it's talking about the tribulation, and it's saying somebody will be in Judea and they're going to flee to the mountains. And what do you see in Revelation 12? The woman, she flees to the wilderness. So another reason that I believe that the woman in Revelation 12 is Israel is because of Daniel 12, verse 11 to 12. It says, "From the time that the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is the one who waits for and reaches to the end of 1,335 days." So that's 3.5 years that they're talking about here. And so that matches in Revelation 12. The woman who gives birth to a child, she flees for a time and half a time, which is 3.5 years. It matches Daniel 12. And in verse 13 of Revelation 12, it says, "Now when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly to the wilderness in a place where she is nourished for a time and half a time from the presence of the serpent." So as you see, that matches in Daniel 12. What he's talking about here is the midpoint of Jacob's trouble, where the Antichrist will do an abominable act in the temple, and the Jews are going to have to flee. So it really matches. And so Daniel 12, Revelation 12, and Matthew 24 all match. It's really amazing when you read the whole Bible and you put it together and connect it, and you don't just focus on one area, but you do have to read it holistically. And when you do that, you see they all come together and it all makes a total sense, and the picture comes together. It's a very hidden mystery, and that's the way God made it, so that it's not just plain for everyone to see. So those verses match. So it makes sense that Israel is the woman. Plus, you have the 12 stars are on her head. If you recall, when I read Revelation 12, it said she had 12 stars on her head, which might be symbolic of the 12 tribes of Israel. That to me is a side note, but at the same time, it adds to the point that the woman is Israel. Some people, again, believe the woman in Revelation 12 is Mary, and I'll get into that more. So who is the serpent? Well, in verse 9, it basically says, so the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So basically, it says right here that the dragon is Satan. And that matches Matthew 24, where it describes the event that fixes the chronological midpoint of the 7-year tribulation. So verses 16 to 20 describe the recommended response of the faithful who see the abomination of desolation in Jerusalem. They are to get out of Dodge as fast as they can. So basically, you see it matches. In Matthew 24, there will be abomination, desolation, the serpent, the dragon, and there's a time and half a time. They flee to the wilderness. It all makes sense. It all matches. So we know who the dragon is. So now let's talk about who is the man-child. Many people debate who that is as well. Some people believe it's Jesus. I don't, or I believe it's a dual meaning, that it's Jesus and who I'll explain who I believe it is. So they believe it's Jesus because in Revelation 12, it says she bore a man-child who was to rule the nations with a rod of iron. And we know Jesus will rule with a rod of iron. It says that in Revelation 2:27 and Psalms 2:9 and Revelation 19:15. So it talks about Jesus ruling with a rod of iron. So that makes sense. But I'll explain where the problem lies or why it would be a dual fulfillment. So another interesting thing is that, and why I believe the man-child in Revelation 12 is about the rapture and not showing Jesus going up to heaven, is because when Jesus was taken up to heaven, we read a different word than we read in Revelation 12. So when Jesus was taken up into heaven, you can read Luke 24:51. And it says, and it came to pass while he blessed them, he parted from them and was carried up to heaven. Carried up to heaven is the word in Greek, anaphor, if I'm saying that correctly, but basically it was the word to carry or bring up or to lead up. That's how Jesus went up to heaven. Whereas in Revelation 12, the word harpazo is used. The child was snatched up, snatched out of danger. It was grabbed quickly and just like snatched quickly out of danger. So that is a different word than to lead up, like gently. So in Revelation 12, the woman gives birth, and before the serpent can get the child, he's caught up, harpazo. That's the word in Greek, quickly. And that word means to seize, to carry off by force or snatch away. Now, was Jesus carried off by force or snatched away into heaven? That's not what it appears to be. Especially from Luke 24, the word is not harpazo. So that's another huge reason. And I think that's like one of the most amazing reasons why we know this symbolic picture in Revelation 12 is talking about the rapture. That is so cool. So the other thing why it doesn't really make sense that the man-child is Jesus or just Jesus is that after the child is born, the woman flees into the wilderness for 3.5 years, as I had mentioned before. You don't see that happening. So after Jesus was carried up, led up gently into heaven, Mary didn't flee to the wilderness for 3.5 years. So many believe that Mary is the woman, Jesus is the child, and the dragon is undebatable. What I believe is that the man-child is the church. So one reason is because the church, the Christian church, is born out of Israel. If the woman is Mary, that doesn't work. But if the woman is Israel, then her child or offspring would be Christians. So that's one reason that the man-child could be the church. to rules with a rod of iron. So yes, Jesus does, but it actually says the church will as well. So Revelation 2:25, but hold fast what you have till I come. And he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I will give power over the nations. He shall rule them with a rod of iron. They shall be dashed to pieces like the potter's vessels. I also have received from my Father, and I will give him the morning star. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. So he rules with a rod of iron. So that's amazing. This makes total sense. So we have all these reasons. The way the child is caught up, it matches that it's the church, that it's the rapture, not Jesus ascending. And it matches the way the woman flees. It matches the tribulation, the time period. So everything lines up with Matthew 24 and Daniel 12 with Revelation 12. This is, to me, it's absolutely amazing. And it is not for everyone to just understand. He wants you to put effort in and to dig and search. And there's a special blessing for those who understand and look into the book of Revelation. So I'm just going to explain the second half of Revelation 12 pretty quickly because I'm not going to read the whole thing. But in verse 7, there's a war in heaven. In verse 9, the dragon is cast to the earth. Verse 11, the woman is persecuted. Verse 16, the woman is helped. And again, you can read this whole thing, but I don't want to make the video too long. So I'm just going to give point form notes what happens in the second half of the chapter. In verse 17, the dragon turns to the remnant of her seed. So this is even more proof to me that the woman is Israel and the child is the church, because what it says is in verse 17 that when he tries to persecute the woman, the dragon, she flees to the wilderness, just like you see in Daniel, just like you see in Matthew. You know, it all fits. And basically, she gets helped. She is protected there. Let's just leave it at that for now. So when he's not able to crush her and deal with her, he turns his attention to the remnant of her seed. That's what it says in verse 17. Well, who would be the remnant of her seed? It would be Christians in the tribulation. So there will be Christians in the tribulation, and we can get to that another time. But basically, the man-child being caught up is the rapture of the church. And if you don't know more about that, you can check out my first video I made, What is the Rapture? It's basically a pulling away, a snatching out of danger when the seals, the bowls, and the trumpets begin to happen on the earth, which is all set upon the earth by Jesus. Jesus starts it all. He opens a scroll and sends all this tribulation on the earth. And there's a reason for the tribulation, and I'll get into that in another video, but it relates to the Jewish nation. So in verse 17, when it talks about turning on the remnant of her seed, it makes total sense that there will be a remnant, some people left who are believers and are living in the tribulation, whether that means they started believing after they saw the rapture or whatever happened there. They're there and they come from Israel, as we are grafted in, and kind of like the Christian faith obviously is a derivative of the Jewish faith. So he turns his attention there. So that also adds to why Israel, like the woman in Revelation 12 is Israel, and the man-child being caught up is the church, and the dragon is who it says he is. So just in conclusion, I'll just say this one more time. The woman symbolically represents Israel, who will produce godly offspring during Jacob's trouble. She will be persecuted by Satan, but will flee to the wilderness for 3.5 years, where she will be helped by God to survive. The man-child is the faithful Christian church, or the offspring of Israel, who will be caught up quickly before Satan can devour them, snatched out of harm's way. And this does not mean Christians never experience life's tribulations. This is pertaining directly to the 70th week of Jacob's trouble, also described in Matthew, Luke, Mark, and Daniel, as it is a time for recompense of the sins of Israel. Also, we discussed that the man-child will rule with Jesus with a rod of iron. The dragon is Satan, and that's stated pretty plainly. So what do we do with this information? We can see that God sometimes uses pictures and symbols to convey concepts, which was common in the Jewish culture. We can pray for Israel, as we know a very hard time is coming for them. We can pray the prayer found in Luke 21:36 for ourselves, which says, "Watch ye therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man." And also we can look forward to being with Jesus either by natural death or by being snatched to his throne, harpazo, rapture, where he is preparing an amazing home for us with streets of gold, many mansions, and eternal peace and joy. So that's something to look forward to. It's something to prepare for. We know we will have trials and tribulation on this earth. We know, there's no guarantee how things are going to go for us. We have to just be strong in the Lord, and that's just how it is. There's so many things that can happen while we were waiting for the return of Jesus. But when it comes to Jacob's trouble, we have a better understanding of the part we all play in that, and where we're trying to be during that time. So if we are alive and remain, we are trying to pray we're accounted worthy to escape all that's coming on the earth. And Israel, they have a special place in that time period, and there's a reason for it. And again, I'll get into that in another video, why even have the Great Tribulation. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So hopefully I explained to you what Revelation 12 really is, because it's kind of a chapter just plopped in the middle of Revelation, where you kind of have chapters that are chronological and telling a story, and then it just feels like it kind of just pops right in there. If you read the book of Revelation, then you'll see Revelation 12 it's just kind of popped in the middle of there. But what I believe it is it's a summarization of the whole of Jacob's trouble, Daniel's 70th week, or the tribulation. And what it is a brief summary of the long events. And then throughout the book of Revelation, it goes into much deeper detail. So hopefully you understood this, and I hope it gave you a belief in the catching away and understanding that it is a very quick pulling out of danger. It's not like what happened to Jesus in the way that he floated or departed or just went up into the sky. He was not in danger at that point and didn't have to be snatched out of the way. So you can read many articles in Revelation 12, and I found that a lot of them really do lean on the belief that it is Jesus and Mary. I don't really understand, because Mary did not flee into the wilderness for 3.5 years, but I've gone to that already. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you learned something, if you found this interesting, or if you have your own opinion on things, I'd love to hear it. So I'm so thankful that you could join me here again. And yeah, if you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. And I plan on making a video hopefully once a week. That's the goal. So I hope to see you again here soon, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.